Chapter 1 Introduction. One may wonder why it is necessary to conduct a course and write a book focused on women and development. How is women's development different from human development? After all, women's issues are a question of human development. However, this thinking assumes that human development is comprehensive enough to respond to women's issues. In this day and age, when various forms of unjust and destructive development are being held as models people must subscribe to, a genuine reflection on human development is imperative. So, the reader may ask, why do women have to be singled out as a special topic? In the Philippines, women are an integral part of development. In fact, women's importance and participation are highlighted in the Philippine Constitution. Article 2, Section 13 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution emphasizes that women are a vital aspect of nation building and their inclusion in societal structures and processes are key towards equality and development. The Philippines has had two women presidents, a considerable number of women national leaders, including a chief justice, as well as numerous local officials, including competent governors, mayors, and council members. Women have also been known to lead guerrilla units of the Hook and the New People's Army, with some of them gaining iconic status. Women have become leaders in the fields of education and the arts, with many taking position as advocates and pioneers. They have galvanized original dances and concert music. In the areas of business and industry, many women have likewise taken managerial roles. Women have become bank managers, police officers, and CEOs. In 2016, the Philippines was ranked seventh in the world for gender equality by the World Economic Forum. This status does not seem surprising given the influential role that women play in the Philippine society. Discrimination today. Women have made many advances throughout the years. However, the roles mentioned above are not representative of the status of most women in the Philippines and around the world, as in the women's roles in both the reproductive and productive spheres. In the reproductive sphere or the household, child care is left mostly to women. The mother often ensures that her children are clothed, sheltered, educated, and kept in good health. These roles are expected whether the mother is a single mother, the primary source of income, or the supplemental source of income. On top of this, married women are expected to take care of their husbands. Women in the workplace often face a pay gap. They earn a consistently less than men. Women are often confined to low paying professions or those which mirror their reproductive roles in the household, which can be seen as servile. The glass ceiling in which certain attitudes or beliefs about women's abilities limit the positions they can attain in a company is also observed. Although some women have broken through various areas reserved for men, they are exceptions that prove the inequality. A quick look at the list of international CEOs and top executives will prove this statistic. Often, women who are in high position play supporting roles to men. Moreover, even if women do hold positions of power in political or corporate governance, they are usually standing in for a husband or a father who has retired or reached his term limit. Many societies consider women as the weaker sex, physically and emotionally. In terms of capacities, women are considered less than men, functioning to support the ambitions of men. They are not valued highly in the productive realm, one that may often be dominated by men. In other nations and cultures, women have less freedom. For instance, the impoverished women of Bangladesh are not generally allowed to take loans or even interact with development workers who sought to organize them in a savings cooperative. Moreover, there are still barriers that prevent women from obtaining education in many traditional communities in India and Pakistan. A woman's worth may not be equal to a man's. Elsewhere, women are systematically mutilated, female fetuses aborted, and young girls neglected to the point of starvation or even death. In some areas of East Asia, women without husbands are deemed not valuable, such that they are killed or forced to commit suicide when they are without male guardians. Women of, Sah- Women of Saharan Africa are still subjected to female circumcision or genital mutilation to control their sexual desires. This ritual is done merely because of their sex. Women in certain countries may have little to no influence in the public sphere. They have no voice at all in states that adhere to traditions that leave women with diminished rights. Even if women in the Philippines are heard in the public sphere, there is still much work to do for them to realize their creative potential in society. Countries such as India and Pakistan have active female political leaders, yet these countries experience a high incidence of extreme violence against women. India, for example, has more than 36.7 million missing women. According to Amartya Sen, missing women statistically represent the gap in the male female ratio in the country. The gap is caused by deaths due to the neglect of the health and nutrition of women and girls. It may also be the result of underreporting of births due to strict policies on reproductive health, such as China's one child policy. Sen's statistics are outstanding because he estimates that 2.4 million girls are missing in Southeast Asia, 44 million in China, and 36.7 million in India. Discrimination against women may be less obvious in the Philippines. Women in the country are recognized as capable in many areas of life, protected by numerous laws for equality and against discrimination due to sex. Several republic acts are women specific precisely because of the necessity to protect women from systematic forms of discrimination and violence. Despite all these developments, discrimination still exists in the Philippines. Women in the Philippine culture are seen as primarily responsible for childbearing, child rearing, and keeping the family whole. This responsibility is not in itself a problem. However, this belief excuses or even excludes men from participating in the nurturing of their children and prevents women from entering the public domain, limiting women's roles as active partners in industry, nation building, and wealth creation. In the Philippine society, where human fullness is defined by production, consumption, and wealth accumulation, reproductive roles in the home are often ascribed to women. In many other fields, women have a tough time getting ahead because of how men set the kinds of activities and forms of behavior women have to engage in. Voices clubs dominate various domains such as in the productive or economic sphere. For instance, to get ahead in some corporations, one has to engage in after hour activities with the bosses. Lawyers need to play golf with the clients or have cocktails, as well as commit to long hour work hours. Thus, a woman who has child rearing duties after work will have a hard time advancing her career because she has to go home early to take care of her children. On the other hand, if she opts to participate, she will be seen as a bad mother. Similarly, After hour bonding activities often take form of competitive drinking rituals or some kind of activity that sexualizes women, making them uncomfortable. Numerously. Numerous literary anthologies render women invisible. Women writers are scarcely present in the known list of works. It is because women are writers of less consequence? Or is it possible that women do not make it to anthologies because men set the criteria of what good writing is? What themes are considered timeless and what styles are worth anthologizing? It is because more often than not, male editors determine the contents of these anthologies. Male sensibilities determine what themes are worthy of high literature, what styles are genuinely literary, and what innovations push the borders of art. However, as the eminent critic Soledad Reyes noted, women writers had other concerns than their male counterparts, and their themes could be considered as not serious enough for artistic recognition. Thus, women are hardly anthologized in the 20th century collections. While this trend is changing, men still write most of the literary works studied. The same scenario is also true of women artists. Men who have shared values, interests, and hobbies dominate groups who put together exhibits. Thus, it is rare for women to be part of inner circles that collectively create the aesthetic standards that determine what works are to be exhibited. Female artists may have to adhere to industry standards and befriend and conform to the desires of those who control these aesthetics. Systematic violence against young girls is not widespread in the Philippines, yet numerous women suffer various forms of gender based violence. Filipino women are not denied the right of freedom of movement, enterprise, or expression, unlike in the other countries. But they are at risk of sexual harassment and violence from their relatives, classmates, colleagues, strangers, and even significant others. Even access to sexual and reproductive health services is limited in the Philippines. In fact, the passage of the reproductive health law was stalled because of the opposition of the church and its patriarchal hierarchy. Other cultural expectations add a hidden burden on women. Society pressures women to look fair, act docile, or and be caring. Most women are told that they must earn less than their husbands to be desirable, and that their end goal is to have children and take care of the family. Because of patriarchal social structures that shape the world according to men's standards, the flourishing of women is hindered, even if there are no overt forms of violence committed against them. Thus, the position of women is far from ideal, even in a nation like the Philippines with laws for gender equality. The problem with being a woman is a patriarchal society. The problem with being a woman in a patriarchal society is that most women cannot define themselves and be free to enact their full capabilities. Numerous oppressive forces define the female identity in ways that exclude women from creative participation in their shared communities, or in our case, the nation that serves commerce. Because women are designated to be homemakers, they are not expected to have the capacity to make complex decisions regarding production, schedules of large corporations, or understand the intricacies of military strategy. Women are thought to be inadequate for these complexities of governance of the civil or religious government because of their supposed docile nature and weak temperament. Only certain specific areas of endeavor are open to them, which, as mentioned earlier, are connected to the areas of care In extreme cases, women are prevented from engaging in enterprises or financial transactions outside of household chores. Of course, this is not entirely accurate in the Philippines, yet discrimination is still seen in a woman's capacity and roles. If women are considered the subordinates of men and powerless in the society they live in, the injustices against women abound because, in whatever endeavor, women are still living in a world shaped by male values. Discrimination, perhaps, is the first and most important problem that women face. Women are meant to flourish in a world defined by men and male priorities. Although women are possibly different in their way of doing things, what they value, what they feel, and how they learn, they are still assessed according to men's standards and defined by systems. Thus, women have a difficult time realizing their potential and excelling because their ways are not the norm that defines our creative functioning in society.